You're on. Way to go. By the way. Okay. Pass that to the facilities guy.
Sports facilities. That's an ironic topic.
Sorry, I didn't want to.
At the admin meeting tomorrow, we should have one of these printed out for everyone and go over it.
Why not?
Okay.
I like it.
Is it okay if I can?
Why not?
You're in the board.
Sure.
Okay, go.
Terry, I'm running a test.
Very well. How are you?
Hey. Pretty cool. All right.
Good birthday. Like it's kind of fun. Cool time of year.
Good job.
It's kind of a moot subject, you know? Any saving for your retirement now just means something you can't buy.
Exactly. Every year.
I don't even have a card. Did we get cards? What spouse of Christy Appleton?
You need to have this.
I don't have one of those.
A spouse of Christy Appleton?
No. Well, sure.
I don't think I got an actual card. Like,
I don't remember getting one of those.
you're loud. Oh, no, I didn't get one.
I don't have one of those.
That's last year's.
Yeah, that's the one.
Oh. Did you get a spouse of?
No, because I imagine the shells on
Oh,
employees.
because she's, that's right.
It's to get in and out of stuff, well, into stuff for free.
Who's the general? Is that in here somewhere? Yeah, like the keynote.
I don't think I have an ID card though, myself.
No.
No.
You know, they got a big name.
We didn't get an ID card, we got a magnet.
No.
It's separate.
Because I needed it because I was trying to get a discount on shoes not too long ago for being an educator.
It's on their website.
Maybe.
And now you can
It may not be there.
Well, good evening, it's 6 o'clock Apple time, and I want to call the meeting to order, so welcome to the October meeting of USD 345 School District. Let's stand and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to ask Mr. McNorton if you would lead us in that, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd really like to teach everybody how to say that right.
Well, first thing on our agenda tonight, we want to recognize a young man, one of our students, And our philosophy of learning without limits indicates that we want to be able to provide the best quality education that we can for our students and provide them the best learning opportunities. So let me read to you about our young man that we're going to be recognized tonight. Mike Monahan, principal of Seaman High School, announced that Cole King has been named a commended student in a 2019 National Merit Scholarship Program. A letter of commendation from the school and National Merit Scholarship Committee, which conducts the program, will be presented by the principal to this scholastically talented senior. About 34,000 commended students throughout the nation are being recognized for their exceptional academic performance and their exceptional academic promise. Although they will not continue in the 29 competition for National Merit Scholarship Awards, commended students placed among the top 50,000 scores of more than 1.6 million students who entered the 2019 competition by taking the 2017 preliminary SAT/National Merit Scholarship qualifying test. The young men and women being named commended students have demonstrated outstanding potential for academic success, commented a spokesperson for NSMC. These students represent a valuable national resource. Recognizing their accomplishments as well as the key role their schools play in their academic development is vital to the advancement of educational excellence in our nation. We hope that this recognition will help broaden their educational opportunities and encourage them as they continue their pursuit of academic success. So tonight we want to recognize Cole King. Cole, can you come forward, please? And this is truly a big deal. And we have a certificate for you, Cole. It is with great pleasure that I present this certificate to you, Cole. Since this certificate is proudly presented for honorable achievement to commended student in the 2019 National Merit Scholarship Program, Cole King, awarded this day of October 8, 2018. USD 345, Seaman School District, learning without limits. Thank you. Congratulations. Now, we're not going to let you off.
I'm gonna have him stand with me.
Tell us what your aspirations are, what are your plans after high school?
Next year I plan to study biochemistry at Kansas State University on a pre-med track, and my plan is to eventually go to medical school and become a physician. Yeah, excellent.
Okay, let's give Cole another round.
Cole. And if I could make a few comments about Cole and his experience at Seaman High School from our viewpoint. He's also a Kansas scholar, and he will have completed all of our honors classes, dual credit courses. He's enrolled in speech, college speech, debate and forensics. And with Cole's help last year, we won league in Scholars Bowl, and that is not easy to do. Our league is nationally ranked always, and he helped lead the Scholars Bowl to a league championship last year. He also plays the cello in orchestra, and he's that kind of student that all of the teachers want to have in his class. He's just a fine young man. He works hard. He's innately very gifted, and just a tremendous student, and we're just so blessed to have Cole, in our schools. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Fellow board members, this is just one example of why we do what we do. And, great representative of our school district. Absolutely fabulous. There you go.
I'd like to take this next opportunity under Learning Without Limits to recognize a long-standing servant of our public and our schools.
That makes it sound old.
He's not that old, but it's all the achievements and all the boards that he serves on makes him certainly well-rounded and well-connected to our community. I'm going to stand up and come around front here, and then Frank, if you want to join me on the other side
of the table here, because this is a photo op. I'm going to stay here in front of the mic for a moment. We're very fortunate in this district to have incredibly connected, incredibly talented and passionate board members that have guided this district for years. This district is a shining star district because of the leadership of our Board of Education. Tonight, we're celebrating one of our board members whose leadership not only resides on this board, but he has served for several years on the National School Board Association, and most recently was appointed to an open spot on the National School Board Association Board of Directors now. So we're very appreciative to have Mr. Frank Henderson representing us nationally, sharing the interests that we have in Seaman School District nationally, and then sharing back with us what's happening that will impact our teaching and learning back in our district. And so it's my pleasure and honor to present this certificate to Mr. Frank Henderson, who's serving the National Board of Directors. Thank you.
The whole meeting says speak.
Okay. One thing I just might kind of piggyback on what Dr. Noble was saying. The National School Board Association a few years ago formed a 501c4 called the National School Board Action Center, which is actually then a corporation that is allowed to lobby. And they hit the Capitol Hill every day on our behalf, representing the issues of all of the school districts all across the country. They were very instrumental in passing the ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act, that actually was designed to replace the No Child Left Behind, that had some benefits but many pitfalls and failures. And the Every Student Succeeds Act, called ESSA, is designed to have local control, and the states, and many are probably aware of that, submits their own plan of how they're going to conduct education in their state and the standards that they're going to set for success of their students, and submits that plan, and then that plan is then approved by the U.S. Department of Education. And so NASBAC, what we call National School Board Action Center, is very instrumental in getting those type of things passed. One of the priorities that we'll be doing this next year is a reauthorization of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, called IDEA. And in a nutshell, what this does is provides funding for school districts to work with students that have disabilities. When that first went into effect, the federal government recognized the fact it would cost more money to provide the services that these students need, and stated they would pay 40% of the excess cost. To date, that percentage remains around 14 to 15%. And school districts like ours and others across the country continue to provide services for students with disabilities because it's the right thing to do. And so we do that, but we're not receiving the full funding that was promised to us from the federal government. So it's going to be a priority nationwide this next legislative session with Congress to get them to move off of that 14, 15% and fully fund what they had promised to do. So that's kind of our major task with NASBAC this next year. Okay, next item, Superintendent of the Year nominee, a finalist. We were informed just as of this morning, in fact, Dr. Steve Noble, Superintendent of Seaman Schools, was announced as a finalist for the 2019 Kansas Superintendent of the Year, along with the gentleman Glenn Suits from USD 400. The Kansas School Superintendents Association is pleased to announce 2 exceptional district leaders as finalists for the Superintendent of the Year. And the process basically consists of, in July, 6 Kansas superintendents were nominated by their peers for this year's award. Each nominee completed a rigorous application process, which is reviewed and evaluated by a select KSSA committee. And over the next 2 weeks, each of the finalists will be interviewed by a committee comprised of former Kansas Superintendents of the Year. And the Superintendent of the Year will be announced on October 26th. And looking at the highlights of Dr. Noble, of course, he began his tenure here in July of 2016, previously serving as superintendent in Durham, Hillsborough, Lehigh School District since 2009. And during the winter of the 2016-17 school year, USD 345 began working on an initiative to realize the dream of providing a universal and cohesive early childhood learning program. And of course, you're aware that we have Mathis Early Learning Center running. And it, of course, was kind of a lengthy process to get everything going, and was complicated and included adoption of a pre-K curriculum, remodeled of 2 facilities, partners with community preschool and daycare operators, and organized a staff community task force focused on collaborative and universal early learning. And one of the first steps we had to cross in that task was to identify the mission of early learning in Seaman schools. And then that mission is guiding us throughout the study, development, and implementation of universal early learning. And presently we serve around 283 and 4-year-old children. And of course it's home base for the district parents teacher program, which is serving 60 families. And also what was highlighted in Steve's nomination is the partnership that's been expanded with Boys and Girls Club, where we are providing services in all of our elementary schools for before school, after school, and day out programming. Instead of having one location, students are able to enter those programs and be engaged in their home school. And so those are just some of the highlights that were listed in the nomination for Dr. Noble. And being a finalist is a big deal, and we're very proud of you, Dr. Noble. So I just want to say congratulations on being a finalist. And we're keeping our fingers crossed that when the announcement is made October 26th, there will be Dr. Steve Noble, Seaman School District. So congratulations for being a finalist. And thank you for your work. Okay, the next item on the agenda was NSBA update, and I kind of actually included that in my earlier remarks. We will be having our national conference in April, and board members, at the end of March, at the beginning of April, board members have been given the agendas. The opportunity to begin the registration begins Friday, March 29th, and actually ends on Monday, April 1st. This year, a conference will be held in Philadelphia, which is a great historic city, and will provide opportunities for folks to take in some history as well as attend the excellent workshops and sessions that are provided by NSBA. One of the things that we have found over the years is that we as a board have really expanded our horizons and our vision when we're able to go to national professional development sessions and see what's going on in other states and see what's going on in other ways across the country where students are engaged in learning. I still remember, it was probably 10 years ago when we were in Chicago, and this is when we weren't as active with our technology as we are now. We went to many sessions and we saw how they had engaged students with the use of technology, and we came back and said, this is what we want to do. And so right now, of course, we are a district that's pretty rich in technology, and our students are being engaged. So, Dr. Noble, that's all I have under the NSBF.
On my comments on item 4, I just wanted to cover briefly the first of several sub-reports that will be part of the overall district, state of the district report that will come up early next year. The first one, our timeline typically, October is the enrollment trend report. You have that copy in front of you. As you know, we count heads on September 20th, and so the first opportunity for us to crunch some of those numbers and bring those numbers to you, and we'll do this annually, is in this report. The following month in November, we'll do the teaching and learning report. Their annual report will be much more comprehensive because all of the state assessment data from the State Department is in now. ACT data has been reported. We'll have communities of care survey data to share with board members, et cetera, et cetera. And so there'll be all sorts of reporting that we'll do with the learning report in November. In December, we will do the staff FTE report, let you know what our staffing trends are over the last 5-6 years, so you can start seeing that data. In January, Mr. Horton will present his annual budget report. This is different than building the budget. This is sort of a year-over-year process of showing you everything from district valuations, evaluation per pupil, to general fund budget, LOB budget authority, and just show you trends over the last 5 years. And then lastly, in February, we will have the beginnings of our facilities. It will be our facilities report, capital outlay core 5 report, where we'll start that process back over with the board. And then we'll also present the state of the district at that time, starting with enrollment trends. As you can look and see, the first highlighted page has enrollment in the red box at the top. I'll hijack this system. This is a cool system that Terry has hooked us up with. He calls this a puck. I guess this is a puck for you tech people, and it really works pretty swimmingly. And so the first page we have is the enrollment page, and you can kind of see the enrollment trends of each of our buildings over the last 6 years. Of course, some of our buildings have closed, some have reopened, some have been repurposed, but you can see those numbers there. I'll entertain any questions you have as part of this, but I thought I would just continue through the report as you see it. We show it to you in number form in the raw data, then we show it to you in sort of a bar graph, and then we show it to you in a line graph to show you those trends, and then we show you our secondary and adult enrollment at the middle, elementary, or the middle, high school, and adult learners there. Generally speaking, you would consider and surmise that over the course of the last 6 years, our enrollment is relatively flat, with some subtle peaks and values, or peaks and valleys over that same course of time. Out of district enrollment, then we get a number of questions about this, and this is interesting data. You can see from the fall of 13 to the fall of 18, we're actually fewer in number of out-of-district students than we had back then. But you can see during the block grant years, when we closed our borders, the out-of-district enrollments were at their lowest level they were the past 6 years. They've rebounded somewhat with us reopening our borders last fall and again this fall. And you can see those trends of out-of-district students by building, and then the secondary level, and then moving on down to the free and reduced lunch populations. We are interested to dive into this data a little bit more to understand why these numbers are going down, but this is in some ways a promising number, because we have fewer people, according to this, that are completing applications and qualifying for free and reduced lunches across our district. So we've dropped a little bit in almost every center. We've gone down, with a little exception, West Indianola, they're a little bit up, and a little bit up at the high school. But we've noticed a drop particularly at Logan and Northern Hills. Pretty significant declines there. And then you can see it by building. And so that's our enrollment report that will become part of the overall state of the district report. Questions for me?
All right, thank you, Dr. Noble. Next item on our agenda tonight is public communications. Is there anyone that would like to address the board at this time on any items that are not on the agenda? Okay. Move on to the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Noble, do you have any changes, additions, directors, board members? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Moved by Fred, second by Carl. Any other comments, discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, the agenda is adopted. Next item is disposition of business by consent. Moved by Fred,
Second.
second by Sherry. Any comments, discussion on any of those items on the consent agenda? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, consent agenda approved. Next is discussion items. Dr. Noble.
First item on the agenda is the Rochester school discussion. We are still at a place where we have a couple of plans that we can take, a couple of roads we can take. One is to, as we've discussed, demolishing the building. One is to repurpose the facility into a educational green space. There's been a lot of work on that done. We've had some work done by our architect to look at studying that. It's probably more involved from that standpoint than we may need it to be, and so I think we're at a place now where perhaps looking at other options as to what specifically we want to demo. Maybe we can create some specs and some clear direction, and look at kind of maybe over the next 30 days bringing the second proposal back to you that's more streamlined and specific to what this board wants done with it. So we'll open it up for discussion.
Well, Dr. Noble, in my opinion, I hate to see the building come down, obviously, but I think it has lived its usefulness for the district. Although, as I spoke before, I'm not a proponent of giving the ground away because they just don't make any more. I guess what I would like to entertain this board with is the option to possibly even forego architectural services to perform more of an in-house bidding. But I'd like to see the building come down. I'd like to see the hard surface on the west side go away. I'd like to see the hard surface on the east side go away up to the fence. I would like to see the parking on Rochester maintained. And I would like to see the track and grass area to the south just be maintained. I propose we tear the building down, slope it back on a grade. Perhaps the building is what's causing the ground not to sell. I don't know. We've had zero interest. But in my opinion, if we tear the building down, tear the track down, it's not much of a baseball field there, but it is utilized by several rec teams. I'd hate to see us get rid of it and take another 3 years for an interested party to show interest in the property. So I would like to see the track and green space to the south maintained. Everything north of that basically be demolished. I don't feel that it's a huge undertaking to come up with a specification. I don't think that it's anything that this body or our body of professionals could not come up with themselves to save money. That's my opinion.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Any other comments, thoughts? Yes, Southland.
I know we checked with our firm. Do we have the option to put this out for bid for the demolition of the building?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. I think, Mr. Griffin, isn't that what you were saying essentially?
I
where
absolutely
would-
think we need to put the demolition of it out to bid.
Yeah.
What I think we could possibly entertain to forego is the specification drafting of it, the hiring of an architectural firm. We're not building a structure. We have professionals in this district, in this building, in this room that could assist with that to save money.
Yeah, I'd suggest that we write an RFP by next board meeting for the demolition of the structures, as well as the parking lots to the west, to the south, or not to the south, but surrounding the building itself, leaving the parking area along Rochester Road. And then, of course, as Keith mentioned about doing the grade on the east side, clear to the west side.
I think 30 days is too aggressive. I think
It's gonna take
60,
longer
I
than
think
that.
60 days is more likely.
I agree with what Mr. Griffin has said about, you know, keeping that land and finding a purpose for it. You know, obviously it's being used currently, you know, for athletics, for physical activity. I would also like us to explore ways that we could use that to support academics, whether that is some type of, you know, agriculture or eco science or something. I would like to look at it not just being a place that we sustain because it's, you know, that it, as just a green space for enjoyment, but truly to find some way to multi-purpose that to go so that our properties are still advancing what we want, which is learning.
I'm not inclined to hold on to the space, but I certainly think no matter what we do, the logical next step is to move forward with the demolition, whether we keep it or sell it after that. We're going to have to demolish the building at some point, and I think that's the most respectful thing to do to the neighborhood at this point.
I do too, to prevent it from becoming an area less desirable.
We've actually had the building on the market for a good period of time now. I don't remember exactly how many years. And we've not really had any genuine interest of anyone buying the building. And I think it's pretty clear no one wants the building in the current condition it's in and is willing to put it to use. And so I think that's certainly the best option, being able to put together an RFP and seeing what kind of response we will get to put in the bid for demolition of that. So from what I'm hearing, that's kind of the general consensus tonight, that we want to be able to move forward and put out an RFP and kind of see what we get back in maybe 60 days, being able to have the proposal that we can review and put out.
I think that's great direction from the board.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Teaching and learning report, Ms. Kramer.
I'll be brief tonight. Just want to share with you guys that the Body Venture will be at West Indianola tomorrow, all second grade. In the board report, I put a little map of the body parts that they'll be going through. It's this huge blow-up thing, so thought you might enjoy that.
Now, I didn't let them know about the volunteer opportunities. So why
Okay.
don't you share that?
We are short 3 volunteers in the afternoon. If anybody would like, you could pick your body part, stomach, heart, muscles. You could be in the brain if you'd like. They are looking for 3 more people for tomorrow afternoon.
11:45 to 3 o'clock?
Yes, but they'll take volunteers anytime during that time. Kids go through in stages.
I would be happy to help with that, and I would like to be in the brain.
Awesome, awesome.
Not just because of, you know, that's the smart place to be, but Safe Kids also supports Body Venture.
Yes.
And we talk about traumatic brain injuries, and we have bike helmets that we give away because that's obviously something we believe in. So
Nice.
I would be happy to help with that with a morning shift.
In the morning,
11:45.
before lunch?
Yes.
Perfect.
Before 2, I have a meeting at 2.
Okay, perfect. I'll let them know that you'll be stopping by.
Wonderful.
So, Ms. Kramer, what does
Yes.
that look like in terms of volunteers?
So there are, like, I think there are 12 volunteers per session, and the students go in small groups, so the classrooms will arrive, each of the buildings will be bussed over, and they have slotted times during the day. Teachers will divide the kids into 3 groups within each classroom, and then they'll stagger them, and they'll go through the body, and at each station, there's different activities. They've done some prep work with it. There's some curriculum and some videos that go with this that they'll watch prior to going tomorrow that they probably already have, and then there are booklets that the students will go home with. kind of the theme is eat smart and play hard. And so the whole idea is that this fosters an awareness of healthy choices. And we know that getting them early will help maybe sustain long as adults being a little bit more health conscious. So that's our hope. So this is something that we'll do every year, and it will rotate buildings. West got the lucky straw, drew the lucky straw, short straw, I guess, this year. And so we'll rotate that every year. So this will be something that we plan to do ongoingly with the second grade students. So every year, a new crop of second grade students will have this experience. Yep. Also wanted to just touch base on the ages and stages questionnaire, if you've heard of that. The window for that is with the kindergarten readiness component of Kansans Can. The window opened August 1st and it closed September 20th. We worked really hard to try to get 100%. I put the percentages of completion in the board report, and then we are going through that data right now, and next month should be able to report out what the data looks like for those kindergarten readiness questionnaires that parents filled out. Going to KSDE on Friday to the curriculum leaders meeting, sitting around tables, that was one of the topics of discussion. I was a little worried about our percentages, but after hearing from other districts, we're looking really good. North Fairview was at 100%, Elmont was at 97% completion. That's a huge undertaking, getting parents to fill out a survey that takes about, it was 2 surveys, mind you, and it took about 15 minutes to fill that survey out. So we're rather pleased with the percentages overall, after hearing some other districts on Friday. So we'll do even better next year,
I've
but
seen some numbers statewide myself. Rebecca Kramer has worked tirelessly at getting the
Well,
parents to fill this out.
it wasn't me. It was
Yeah, but
principals and kindergarten
They
teachers.
worked very diligently getting these.
They did. They were giving weekly updates, and we were getting parents to fill them out. So,
Great effort.
yep. So we're excited to share that data next month. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Fernanda Flores.
Good evening. The report contains various pieces of information with regards to secondary, in particular, anti-bullying events that are going on in our schools and have been going on. So I invite you to read through those. October tends to have that week of anti-bullying week. Also, want to highlight a suicide prevention activity that some of our leaders and students attended at the Shawnee County Youth Suicide Prevention Initiative at Family Service and Guidance Center. We brought 3 students along with us, Callie Jensen, Lauren Richardson, and Ellie Key, to participate in a student panel. And then 2 of our counselors participated in a clinician panel later on and have had follow-ups. Our students have been invited to return to this. They found the clinicians at the Family Service and Guidance Center found the information they gather from students to be relevant, and so our students have been invited back for 2 different opportunities. Our students have said that they are interested. And also, after that panel, we were debriefing with the students and the clinicians, and they've started to come up with ideas of things that they want to institute in our schools, and we're working through that. So the kids are owning what they learned there and some of the ideas that came through the panel, and looking forward to, at some future date, presenting from them what they'd like to see happen in our schools. Also, learning without limits does not happen without great educators, and I will invite you to read over what Mr. Dingus has been doing with the debate team and the successes that they're experiencing, as well as Ms. Andrea Marshbank, a ELA teacher at the Freshman Center, is taking 2 leadership roles in the state of Kansas, as well as, October is National Principal Month. And these are kind of sometimes unsung heroes. We don't hear very much from the successes from the perspective of the things that they do. So I'll invite you to make sure you send out an email thanking them for all the efforts that they do on behalf of our district and our students. And I think that's it for me, unless you have questions.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to bring your attention to the school G parent communication numbers. They're at the bottom of the second to last page of the report. Last year, we started thinking about how we could improve communication and decrease the number of different systems and different areas that parents were going to in order to get information about their students in the district. And with that push, with our Schoology learning management system, you can see the difference in our numbers of parents that are enrolled in Schoology from January of 2018 to September of 2018. We've seen a significant increase in all of our buildings across the district. In fact, if you look at the enrollment numbers that Dr. Noble this evening, one of our buildings even has more signed up than they have student enrollment. And the reason for that is the numbers that you see here are actually individual parent numbers. So multiple parents can sign up per student. So some of these numbers could reflect 2 or even 3 in some cases, parents or adults associated with that child. But still, we see that we've had an increase in utilizing that system to communicate, and I credit that to our principals and teachers who have really taken that to heart and put in significant effort to get parents involved, including having Schoology representation at parent evenings. We had a 5th grade team at West Indianola host Schoology nights just last week, so they're really out there trying to get that information across. Yes?
I think it's definitely getting better, but there's still challenges in terms of signing up for parent-teacher conferences. We get a message that says, sign up on PowerSchool, but learn how to sign up on Schoology.
Mm-hmm.
And is there ever an opportunity to kind of merge those where you'd be on the same system for both of those things, or it's just a different function?
PowerSchool and Schoology, you mean?
Well, to get a message that says, go here to learn how to do something here, I think is kind of a challenge for parents.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think that's an appropriate observation. And I'll also mention at our Technology Advisory Committee meeting, we heard feedback from our stakeholders who are at that meeting about additional suggestions and ways that we can continue to make this a successful process. So I think that's a good recommendation, and we're going to continue to look at it and see how we can even improve this further. Okay. If there are any other questions, then we're ready to move into the social emotional part of the meeting. Okay, last month, you had ours pulled up. Yes, 1 minute. I love how you guys are so ready students there. Last month, you guys had the opportunity to hear from the high school about their social emotional process and their digital citizenship curriculum. Today, you have the opportunity to hear from the middle school, and next month, you're going to hear from our elementary school. So I just wanted to take the opportunity first, before we hear from the middle school folks, to tie in the cohesive vision for the digital citizenship portion of the curriculum. We are using Common Sense Education as the curriculum for our digital citizenship. There's many reasons why the district went with Common Sense Education. For one, it's not a new curriculum to many of our teachers and our instructional coaches. We've been using the Common Sense Education resources, which are free, so cost-effective is a plus, for several years. So it wasn't a gigantic leap. But also, we always strive to be purposeful in the resources and curriculum that we're using. And the Common Sense Education curriculum is tied to the Common Core standards, the International Society of Technology and Education standards, and also the American Association of School Librarian standards. And for that reason, that's why our school librarians at the elementary level are the ones who are disseminating this curriculum and this information with our students. My next slide up here just shows the 8 frameworks that are used across the district when discussing this curriculum. So all of our students, K-12, get their lessons targeted into one or multiples of these areas every lesson that they get. So they are very real-world topics and applicable topics to each of the grade levels that are getting them. So you can see here with our K-6 librarians, they've been trained. They have a scope and sequence that I'm going to open up in a second. And they also use a digital tool called Nearpod to give that information to their students. So pulling up the scope and sequence, this is just a nice visual for you to see how those frameworks are tied across all the different lessons. So you can see the names of the different lessons here. This is just K-6. And each of those little bubbles is showing the framework with that lesson. So that's where you can see at least one or multiple are out there, starting with kindergarten, where they talk about going safely on the internet, how to search, up until 6th grade, where you start getting more of the heavier digital life, cyberbullying sort of things, and everywhere in between. We also have our middle school and high school lessons identified, and you heard from high school. Middle school is going to tell you a little bit more about them. So I will have, Danita, were you wanting to introduce our guests who are with us?
Because they deserve an introduction. One of our fearless leaders, Mrs. Dietrich and Ms. Chelsea Heitman, are here to present to you how they choose and why they choose different curriculum. In your packet, in your report, you have the curriculum that has been designed or created through this week at their school. So here they are.
Welcome, ladies.
Hello. That one. Yep. There we go. All right. I know you heard from the high school last month on their social emotional curriculum, and so we're going to talk about ours. And ours is Connect with Kids, and it's school connect at the high school, connect with kids at the middle school, and then at the elementary school we have our second step curriculum. So it's a different, but it's still a K-12 all-inclusive social emotional curriculum. And so we want to talk about how we come up with our lessons for our students through really a pretty well-oiled process, but one that we get together and do. So Connect with Kids. It's a media and technology company that connects communities through inspiring real stories about social emotional issues. And that's what really, I think, connects our kids with this curriculum, is it uses real-life stories with students who are adolescents, telling their story, sharing their story. It has the discussions all built in around that. And it goes so much beyond that. It talks about what we can do in our community and beyond. It helps kids in discussion. And so there's this huge nonfiction library. In fact, sometimes it's overwhelming how many videos are available to us. And we're going to show you how we go through that process. And it's not easy because we can do pros and cons of all kinds of videos. When we look at them, we look at this one, we look at this one, what we like about it, and how we think it best fits the needs of our students. So when we make this decision, we talk about, why? Why do we choose this topic? So when we're planning out our social emotional, we really take a look at our committee. And we have a committee that is formed of a variety of people. We have our office staff, so we have both administrators, both counselors, our instructional coach. We have representation from our elective teachers, our core teachers. And so all of us come together and we bring a different lens to that committee. So we look at our discipline and office referrals. What are we seeing coming across our desks? Like, what kind of issues are our students facing? Our counselors talk about what are they seeing as they talk to students? What are some big issues that our kids are facing? Any kind of awareness event, as was mentioned earlier, we have the anti-bullying weeks during October. We also celebrate Red Ribbon Week in the month of October. Suicide prevention was in September. So any of those type of events that are celebrated across our state or across our nation. We look at our SRSS-IE data. So we look at what our kids are flagged as, areas that are of concern to our teachers. And then any kind of recommendations coming from our teachers as they get to know their kids in the classroom. What are some of the topics that kids are talking about? You can hear and learn a lot from students as they're having those conversations during seminar or when they're in the hallways and you're standing there. So what kind of recommendations? And then lastly, we look at our community. What are some community issues that we're facing? And how can we address those with our lessons? So we really pull all of that together when we make our decisions as far as why do we select this topic. So the process begins. Our committee, we have a SEMA Middle School Seminar Lesson Planning Committee, and we meet regularly to decide what lessons we're going to address. And during that time, we address our lessons for our digital citizenship. We address our social emotional curriculum with Connect with Kids. We also do our technology lessons. We do our behavior matrix lessons. So we incorporate all of that with our lesson committee. And then we select the topic based on our data, current needs. We work in designing those lessons together. And sometimes that might mean we are all sitting at the table and working on a lesson together. Last year in particular, when we did our big lesson on sexual harassment, That was one where the whole committee sat down and we really drilled into those videos and discussion questions and how can we address this? Because we knew teachers weren't necessarily going to be the most comfortable discussing this, so how can we design a lesson that presents the information yet is relevant to the age and helps our teachers get through kind of a tough topic. Sometimes we divide and conquer. So we partner up and say, okay, I'm going to work with you and we're going to work on this lesson and I really want to learn more about this topic on responsibility, so I'm going to work with the council on this one. So we might divide and conquer. We have a lesson plan template that we're going to share with you and show you how we go through that. And then also we work on lesson delivery. And so with our MTSS process, part of, we talk about the academics, we talk about social emotional, we talk about the behavior, but we also talk about tier 1. So what do we need to provide for all of our students? And so we try to work all those tier 1 instructional strategies through our lessons. That way the teachers are reminded to use this as well. So I'm going to let Chelsea show you really the work that gets accomplished through that.
So, excuse me, this is the Connect with Kids website, and when you log in, it basically has them designed and sectioned out into different categories. So if you go to bullying and violence prevention, this would have been one we used a couple weeks ago. If you get logged in, here you can see all the lessons that they currently have built. And so for these units up here, there's actually 5 parts to each lesson. So that could actually take several weeks to go into and dive into. Typically what we do is we may pick one video and the lesson that goes with it, and then build supplemental things off of that. So if you go into this lesson, you'll see that there's a video, they have a resource guide, and then the lesson plan. So the lesson is very scripted out for us. However, what we have found is that we like to take the discussion questions and tweak them slightly to make them more relevant for our kids and our community. And I'll show you some examples of that when we get to the actual lesson. So basically this library here is how we pull and pick what lessons that we'll do. So each of the videos are anywhere from 2 or 3 minutes to anywhere up to 11 minutes long. So they're pretty short, which is appropriate for middle schoolers. And again, there's lessons on practically any topic you can think of that would be relevant for middle school kids. We can find something that would be correlating to that. They also have their own digital citizenship. This is new in the last year for Connect with Kids, and so I was glad that we went with the other option for teaching our digital citizenship, because this is a very new curriculum for them area. And so if I go back to the presentation, this is an example of what one of our actual lesson plans look like. And a huge shout out to Cassie Medley, our iCoach. She designed all of our lesson plan templates for our digital citizenship lessons, our Connect with Kids, our technology lessons, and so each lesson is formatted essentially the same. This is the one that we taught last week to all of our students. We give an overview and purpose for them and for the teachers. We connect every lesson back to the Kansas character development, social emotional character development standards. And so here you can see the standards, the state standards that it relates to. Again, when Mrs. Diederich was talking about our Tier 1 instructional strategies, here they are listed, spelled out. Like these are we're going to focus on pre-correction and behavior-specific praise throughout this lesson. Area of relevance that this lesson may relate to in our school could be the classroom, responsibility, cafeteria respect, and technology responsibility. We have the materials listed there, and then basically we start this lesson out by asking a discussion question. The really neat part, if you ever get a chance to come over and view our seminar time and our Connect with Kids lesson, we give the teachers a framework, but it's really interesting to walk around from class to class to see their own individual spin that they put on it. And a lot of that is also dependent on the kids and the kids' perspective and the kids' questions and discussions that they have. So as you can see, typically our lessons last around 25 to 35 minutes, depending on the one, but it's all right there, the whole entire lesson. So is there anything else that we need to?
Did you want to pull up the comments for the visual? Did you have that? It's in the because I think it'll go straight to it. You can see on this one. This is the 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 one. This is And then part of that, we do our Connect with Kids, but then here are the digital citizenship lessons that Megan talked about. So what we have is Unit 2. Can we skip to Unit 2? Unit 2 is for our 7th graders. Unit 1 is 6th grade. Go up to the top. There we go.
Oh, sorry.
Unit 2 is our 7th grade, and there are 5 lessons, but they're pretty in-depth, so we have split those. So that way we hit each of those topics twice. So we do those in 2 parts. And we've hit all of them once here in the first 10 weeks, and then we're going to kind of recycle and go back through and do the second part of those throughout the year. That way, we kind of hit it hard first with our digital citizenship, and then we go back and spiral and review that. And so Unit 2 is our 7th grade lessons, and then Unit 3 is our 8th grade lessons, because Unit 1 is covered at the 6th grade, because a lot of times middle schools are at the 6th grade level. So that's the way the digital citizenship curriculum has been set up. So we have lots to choose from. Sometimes our meetings, we can almost get lost in cyber world. We're looking and looking and looking, and sometimes we have to bring ourselves back together and say, okay, we've got to focus because there's so much good out there, and to try to find exactly what we need for our kids at that time. So that's how we go about putting together our social emotional curriculum. And I think, you know, in your board documents, there was a link to our calendar. I know the high school sent you a calendar, and our calendar is for our teachers, so they can get a direct link to all those lessons each and every day. So questions that you have for us?
I'm very impressed with this. I like the thought and effort that has gone into developing this, especially tailoring it for our students specifically. How are you evaluating success? How are you able to determine if we're truly getting through, our students are understanding, they're applying these principles?
You know, it's like with the implementation of any kind of curriculum, we talk about that learning dip. Sometimes with the presentation of these topics, we see a learning rise. So you might see more office referrals. We usually, almost always, and I know it's anecdotal, but have someone with a topic that ends up in our counselor's office, our social worker's office, our principal's office, because something has struck a chord. And so we feel like that is that's what social emotional is all about.
That's
is
telling,
that,
yes.
that they come to us and maybe share a story or ask for the help that they need. Also then, when we do our SRSSIE data 3 times a year, we look to see, are those numbers decreasing in some of those intrinsic and extrinsic motivators on what causes behaviors.
Very good. Thank you.
And I guess I would just like to say in closing, as a counselor, I greatly appreciate the support and the financial support and the backing that we've had over the last 3 years of implementing this curriculum. The middle school years are rough, and if you've ever had a kid go through middle school or currently do, it can be a very rough, difficult time, and this is literally the plate that kind of holds everything together. If we don't have this component in check and these needs being met, there isn't going to be learning that's taking place. So we really appreciate your support and your backing with this. So
Absolutely.
What time during the day do you do this classes?
yeah, so we do it during our seminar time, which is at the very last part of the day. So typically from about 2:15 to about 2:35.
Then doesn't seminar change next semester or
Yeah,
something?
well, really close, on October 16th. If you want to see some real fun,
Yeah.
engaging day.
Yes, and then we'll just have seminar lessons on Wednesdays.
Okay.
So that's how we're going to recycle some of these topics and keep them in the forefront of our shows.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Special Services, Ms. Raines.
In my quest to give you new information, I decided to highlight assistive technology this month in my board report. So I invited Mary Foxhoven to come up and talk about assistive technology. She is a speech and language pathologist within our district, but she's also our assistive technology facilitator. And so she will kind of talk to you about what it is, why we use it, why we need it, and who uses that within our school. So
Yes.
I'll turn it over to
All
you.
right, thank you. Thank you. Okay, as Deidre said, I'm Mary Foxhoven. So I'm just here to talk to you tonight about assistive technology, what assistive technology is, and then also our assistive technology resource team that we have in the district, so the role that we play as a team. Oh, oh, it isn't. Oh, you know what? I didn't do the puck. There we go. Thank you. Thanks, Deidre. All right, so you're probably wondering what exactly is assistive technology. I get asked that a lot when people find out what I do, and there's really two parts to it. It's defined as both assistive technology tools and assistive technology services. And the actual legal definition is any item, piece of equipment, or product system, whether acquired commercially off the shelf, modified, or customized, that is used to increase, maintain, or improve the functional capabilities of a child with a disability. So that's as defined by the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act that you were discussing earlier, Mr. Henderson. So the first piece to that is the assistive technology tools. So that's any tool or device that one of our students with a disability uses to do a task that they couldn't otherwise do. Or it's a tool or device that they use to do something faster, more easily, or with a greater level of independence. So that's our ultimate goal with our students. We want to help them become as independent as possible. So it could be a commercial product that we purchase, or it could be something that someone just makes. Assistive technology, there's a wide range. There's low tech, there's mid tech, there's high tech. So it could be a low tech tool that one of our occupational therapists might make, such as a slant board for a student struggling with handwriting on a flat surface. They might need to have it at an angle to help them be more successful. Or it could be an expensive high-tech communication device that some of our students who are nonverbal or who have limited verbal ability need in order to communicate. So, and then the other piece to that is the assistive technology services. So that's any service that directly assists a child with a disability in selecting, acquiring, or using an assistive technology device or tool, and that's where our assistive technology resource team really provides support. So why is AT so important, and why is it important for educators to understand it? Well, it's critical because not only does it provide educational access to identified students, but it's the law. School districts actually have legal mandates to provide accessible instructional materials to students with disabilities, as outlined in IDEA. So who may benefit from assistive technology? Well, any student with a disability may benefit, whether they're have a mild disability or a severe disability. It's available to help students with a variety of tasks like reading, writing, remembering, walking, sitting, seeing, hearing, and communicating. So what is the role of our district assistive technology resource team, ATRT? Well, we serve as a resource for consultation, assessment, training, and development of AT tools for students who either aren't able to fully participate in school or who are not able to access the curriculum due to their disability. And additionally, we meet quarterly to collaborate and share ideas, identify areas of AT need, and to continue to improve our AT procedure process. So who is on our team? Besides myself, Deidre Raines, the Director of Special Services, is on the team. Becky Clark, Occupational Therapist. Rachel Conant, Sped Consulting Teacher. Raquel Carlson, Special Education Teacher. Miranda Barnett, Speech Language Pathologist. Tracy Reisinger and Mike Colt, who are special education teachers, and then Gary Mapes, school psychologist. So we each offer our own area of expertise to the group. You know, if it's a student that maybe we're looking at the possibility of pursuing a communication device, the speech language pathologists are going to be more heavily involved. If it's a student who can't access curriculum because of a fine motor issue, the occupational therapist is going to be more heavily involved. So what does assistive technology look like in action in our district? Well, we have a number of AT tools being used, so I just wanted to highlight some of them to kind of give you a glimpse of what we're using. We have 12 students in our district who use augmentative alternative communication devices. So those are our students who I said earlier who are nonverbal, have limited verbal ability, or maybe are just difficult to understand because they have significant speech delays. So they have communication devices. We have 3 students
with subscription-based text readers with text leveling. So text leveling is able to take a higher level vocabulary word and make it into a more easily understood vocabulary word for that student, like changing assisted to helped. We have 7 students with subscription-based word prediction programs with speech-to-text capabilities. We have 45 students who have Bookshare accounts. So Bookshare is a free online resource that's funded through the United States Department of Education, through a grant through them, that for students who qualify based on a learning disability, a visual disability, or a physical disability, are able to have access to over 600,000 textbooks, chapter books, novels, whatever it might be, in digital text format. So if we have a class that's reading Of Mice and Men, and we have a student with a visual disability, they're able to get that in digital text format, accessible, so that they can modify the text if needed, they can make it larger, they can change the background color so they can see it better, or maybe they just need the audio format, so they're able to get that. We have 4 elementary students who have individualized laptops with specific programs that help them access curriculum, and those are laptops that they're able to take from both home and school. And then additionally, we provided training to 30 staff members at the beginning of this school year who have students that they work with who have communication devices in order to how to utilize AAC strategies when working with them. So that kind of just gives you an idea of some of the tools and the services that we use. So I wanted to show you just a brief video of what those specific tools and tasks kind of look like in action to better describe them. And then if you have any questions after the video, I can answer them for you. Okay, does anyone have any questions for me about assistive technology?
I'm not a technology guy, so please forgive me, but and maybe this is a Terry question, but I assume a lot of this is software-based?
Some of it is. The thing with assistive technology, it's very low-tech things, and I kind of haven't, well, I guess I don't have it on there.
Let me focus my
Oh, yeah.
question. School's 9 months a year. Do these students have access to this stuff when they're not at school?
The students who have communication devices, they go home with them each
they?
night, and then they have them all summer long.
Okay.
So for
didn't know.
communication, we don't want it just to be when they're at school.
I
Yep.
didn't know, so
We
I was
want it
just
to,
asking.
yeah.
That's
Yeah, that's
good.
a great question. And it's great that the district supports that
Good.
and doing that for our students, because that's very valuable for them.
Do they use screen readers then for Schoology? Just basic things like that? And
Some
we
of
use
them.
a lot of stuff in Schoology. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in Schoology, and that's what's so great about technology. A lot of these are just built-in features that we have on the MacBooks that the students have for our older students. But then some of them need something a little bit more than those built-in features, like the word prediction or the text leveling. So some of those, a lot of these, like Co-Writer and Snap and Read, are Google Chrome extensions. So they're just able to turn them on and off when they need them on their laptop.
And those are sufficient. They're not like JAWS or those other high-dollar.
No,
software
they're
pieces.
like
They
they're
work
like
well
$4.99 a month per student. That's how much those are. Yeah, and there's other ones out there too, but that's what we found works pretty well for most of our students. So that's what we've been using.
That's awesome.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yell at it.
No kidding. Do I just push the button, Terry?
Say, hey Siri.
No, you don't have to do that. You already got it. You talk a while.
Now what are we doing?
Can we send one home with him?
You got assistive technology
Yeah.
You know, they got a phone that will project. Have you guys seen this? They got a little projector, snaps right on your phone, goes right up there, make everything easier. All right. Okay, I'm done. Any questions? Short and sweet tonight, hopefully. At Logan, we installed some partitions in between the bathrooms. This was a pre-K area, now it's a kindergarten area, so the.
And we thank you.
And they were installed a little higher off the ground initially than they were supposed to be, so they should be back to where they should be as of Friday.
And we thank you.
We're trying to make that everything you guys want. Anyhow, we're still in the process of replacing the roof there as well. We're just in the middle of punch here real soon, and then it should be considered complete. North Fairview, we had a piece of playground equipment that the insurance company didn't necessarily think was adequate anymore. It was from the early 60s. I'm not sure exactly its age, but it was a long time ago, so we replaced it with this one, and I think everybody's happy with that as well. It's a little more colorful.
jungle gym.
Yeah, it was a, they call it a geo something, I don't know.
was what we replaced, that was the one.
Had the metal on the metal, yeah. They said the kids, if they played on the outside and fell through or something, they'd land on the other one, so.
I got to tell a quick story. I went there last year, I'm walking out there with Kelly, because the insurance guy said, hey, you gotta go look at this piece, we really think from liability reasons, you gotta get rid of it. So I walk out there, the four cutest little, they're probably second grade girls. So I walked in, they're playing on it, I said, so do you like this piece of equipment? It's our favorite. The mean old man is gonna take
Rip it out.
the favorite playground, so anyway. Yeah,
So then he-
I gotta go back up and see if they like this one.
Yeah. So instead of Bob taking it out, he incorporated it to my, here you go, break their hearts, but anyways. We've got it accomplished, and I think everybody's pretty happy with it. Pleasant Hill, we've been working on upgrading some of the doors. They've been there for several years, and a lot of the doors in the district are kind of rusting out in the bottom. So we're picking a couple a year and trying to upgrade them. Of course, this is not the finishing color yet, but we'll get her painted up and it'll look pretty good. Seaman High School, a lot of what we've been doing recently has been, besides these doors, more interior doors. Hopefully those will last. They're right outside the weight room, going up the stairs. They were really old wooden doors. I don't know if you guys remember those or not, but so here's the baseball field. This is the beginning of top dressing. So basically, this is the start of leveling out the field, any inconsistencies within the playing surface. Well, what you need is that tractor right there, and he will level those out for you. So basically, he drags around and I don't know that he used a laser on this one, for instance, but they drag that around, level it out. Where you see more dirt was the low area, less dirt was the high area. We also aerated and seeded and adjusted every single sprinkler, and we've got some little bitty growth coming up, so hopefully everybody will be happy come spring. Here is the JV softball field. The infield of it is being as well re-leveled. I guess the pitching mound area was kind of a concave. It was holding water, so we're trying to make that a little better place as well. The softball net is in. Next step, we're waiting for turf, and that could be in October, November at the earliest, probably. So we're hopeful we'll get her done eventually. This is right outside the soccer restroom. We had a water main break there, so down in the ground we had to dig it up and replace that. We also had a sprinkler head break, and so we got moles right there as well. Beyond that, overseed, aerate. That's kind of been the name of the game here recently. Any questions for me?
Who did the overseeding?
Which field? The soccer field was Blaine Bertrand
And was that the soccer field that you showed last?
at the very last, yeah.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Topeka Landscape. We also had Schindel do softball and Martin Lane with, Midwest Laser Leveling. So we've kind of we've had several vendors in doing several different locations. Thank you. You want me to get that ready for you?
No, I really don't. Good, to be honest with you.
The sad part is we practiced this.
Yeah, and you noticed everybody else did well, so. You can see the numbers, they run about the same every month. We do about 300 web tickets, and I've shared with you in the past, we don't put everything we do on a web ticket. It's a risk-reward thing. Do I spend 5 minutes noting that I did something, just to keep track of it? We spend a lot of time just in triage work and things that come up. We just figure that there are customers, we need to be responsive. I upgraded the board video projectors. Very, very cool stuff. Not only did we put in the wireless connection with the puck, you know, I'm able to split screen it if I want. 4 pucks, does not do 4 split screens, only 2. I got to tell you, this, I don't know how usable it is, but it's cool. No more wires. We do have one fail-safe wire because it's wireless. It could go bad, so we can do that. The cool thing, there, look at, and see, I'm trying to read. There's got to be one in every crowd. You know, these pucks are going to be fun, aren't they? So here,
Better take it back.
take it back, Jeff, would you please? Very nice. The older projectors that we took out of here, these are nice and bright. You can see, and they're quiet, if you can hear that. We're going to repurpose those. One will end up in West Indianola because they don't have one. They were left out in all the remodel. And the other one we'll just have if we need it, so they're not going to go away. One thing I did want to share that's not in the board report, I'm leaving you in January. So I want to make sure that you know that Dr. Noble and our team, we're working on making that transition seamless. Jeff's been here a long time. Jeff is more than capable. He's my shadow. You guys know Jeff, and Jeff will shadow me now between now and the time I leave to make sure that he knows what I do and can fill in. I've shared with you before, the department's very capable. The people we have are very good. You're not going to see a disruption in service at all, I don't believe. We'll revamp some of the things. We'll take away some not mundane things, but things that don't require a lot of technology. It's clerical stuff. We'll move those away to other departments. But rest assured, everything will go smoothly. And this time next year, you're not even going to know Terry. So that's the goal, and that's good. So any questions for me? Good.
I just want to say thank you for your service, and it's
Yeah.
been great working with you. And we
Great,
are
I'm
gonna
glad.
miss
You know, it's
even-
interesting. When I started here, we didn't have email. We actually shared 5 email accounts that first year, so we've come a long way, baby, I guess, right? But thank you.
And you be one of the original folks
I
back
thi-
across the state who were first hiring technology directors for schools.
I think I was the second one. Large school district had one, and Dr. Hearn, who was a customer of mine at the time, took a flyer on me and decided we needed a technology director. We weren't sure what that meant, but the first part of it was to update the way we dealt with our AS400 at the time. Actually, it was a 36 that we updated to an AS400. Still the best thing I've ever owned. It just ran, but it's been a fun journey. It's the next chapter will be fun as well. So,
Thank
you bet. Thank you.
Your last board meeting, I still want to appreciate it.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Terry, you've done a great job in trying to deal with the wants and desires of non-tech people that said we should be able to do this, or why can't we do this? And you've really adapted to our desires to be able to have a technology-rich learning environment. So thank you very much. Mr. Horton.
Last month, Dr. Noble asked me to take a look at the building use policy, so got right on that and back this month with the results of that. I met with Brad Dietz, Alan Cooper, Mark Semino, there are people in the trenches as it applies to building or gym usage, building usage. So sat down and talked to them. Really, first question asked them, does policy match with practice? And they believe for the most part that it does. We looked through the policies, have made I think a pretty minor suggestion. You've got policy number 7 there, which had to do with going into other parts of the building, and the second sentence, violation of this policy could result in loss of privilege. We thought it would be best to take that out of item 7 and just make an item 13 that says if you violate any of our policies, not just the going to other buildings, if you violate any of them. But I will tell you this, they understand the importance of getting our patrons and our kids and our families into our buildings. And so if anybody's ever lost privilege, I'm not aware of it, because we work and work and work to try to figure out a way just to make sure we can provide everybody with space. I did mention in my write-up, my narrative, just that the 3 additional elementary gyms have made a huge difference. That was another question I asked them point blank, because back when I was in the middle school, that was probably one of the bigger problems we ever heard was, why can't I get gym space? And there just was only so much to go around. But you add in you add in the big new middle school gym, which can be portioned into 4 separate gyms by dropping those curtains. I mean, we really added 7 gyms to the district. So it was their opinion, the 3 of them, that and Brad even mentioned that use of the high school has really dropped considerably. More people are using the grade school gyms and the elementary gyms. And so that was the only suggested change to the policy itself. I do have to apologize to you that the information I sent out last Wednesday for the packet, I did not, we also suggest that you take out 2 lines from the fee rental schedule, and that is, there's a line in there that says secondary gyms are not available for rent. We're just going to take that out. It doesn't necessarily mean someone's going to get to rent it. I think we just look at those on a case-by-case basis, but it would be highly unlikely that would be the case. And then the other one has been directly contradicted in the last couple of years. It says Logan Junior High football field is not available for rent, and we had that semi-pro.
Totally do that.
Right. So there's practice and policy not lining up. So we just.
By the way?
No.
I don't think they disappeared, or just we
I
don't
don't
know,
think
or
the
what?
team exists, and I don't
They
follow
should-
that
okay, I
kind
was
of
curious.
football, but I don't think they exist.
Yep.
So that's the other suggestion, is just to remove those 2 items from the fee schedule.
I mean, it was, I mean, that was a strange deal, but I'm glad we helped them out for a couple weeks.
So those are the 2 suggested changes, but again, like I said, they work hard to get people into the buildings and try to meet everybody's needs. Having been there and done that, it is frustrating at times, because 99% of our patrons appreciate the fact they get to use the facilities and they take care of them like they're their own, and then you get an occasional issue. And so it's not the easiest thing to do, but like I said, I believe our building administrators understand the significance and the importance of doing it. So I believe that policy and practice for the most part are in line, and suggest those couple of changes. I'll take any questions that you have.
Was the, that's not policy, but practice-wise, how's that going? I mean, the 90-day thing and the reservation system in general, did they seem to like how that's being?
Yeah, I think Mark maybe had some more issues with it at the elementary level, because he aligns.
I mean, who does it at the elementary level? Is it
He does Elmont and
PE
Logan.
teacher or secretary or principal?
Yeah, Mark does Elmont and Logan.
Okay.
The PE teacher at West does West. I believe it's the secretary at Northern Hills, and it's the secretary and PE teacher at North Fairview.
And that works okay for all?
Yeah, one concern that did come up is, and this came from, general administrators, I asked the building administrators, you know, hey, we're going to look at this. If you have any issues, let me know. One of them sent me something. And really, all they were doing was advocating for paying somebody extra duty if they had to spend time outside the day, lining that up. And I said, by all means, we will pay someone to do that. I think that's a reasonable thing to pay somebody to do. Mark is paid to do it for Elmont Logan. It's not as necessary. I think Alan said at the middle school that Steve Bushnell and Lance Dugan are going to start doing it as a duty period. So there's not the need to pay somebody because they're able to do it during the day.
Okay.
And that's probably one of the, I would say that's probably the toughest one to schedule because they can break it up into 4. Although, and I was getting at Mark though, Mark works really closely with the Optimist programs, the basketball, girls and boys basketball. And so he said, so the policy reads, I think it says we won't go out more than 90 days. And he actually cuts it down even less than that, because he needs to flip those teams more often than 90 days when they get into those seasons. So that was one of his concerns is, can I keep doing it the way I have? And I said, well, the way I read the policy, it says no more than 90 days. And so you're not doing more than 90 days and it's working. And so don't, if it's not broken, don't fix it.
And then the other comment would be about access. Are we, and that seems like a nightmare because you give folks, they sign up for a spot, then they've got to get fobbed, and they got to get time they can go in. And is that all going well as well, or is that?
I think that's the part that causes some frustration, or maybe it's the, I think that's the work part of it, not so much.
Well, I mean, the form's got to go to somebody to give them access.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but so
Did
yeah.
they lose their time slot? Did they lose their access, or how,
I think
I'm not asking to solve that tonight,
I think the fobs and the cards maybe cause the most frustration, but frankly, there's not a, before cards and fobs, it was keys.
Right.
So
oh, no, that's my point. I still have some.
Yeah, I don't think there's a, but those, you talking about fobs or keys?
Keys.
Do you?
And that's the thing. I'm like, it's loosey.
It is. It's hard to
And
try.
I imagine the fobs, but the fobs would be easier to tighten down. Those guys can
shut them off and on.
But I don't know if those forms make it to the guys to shut them off either. I don't, just asking.
Yeah.
Something to think about.
Again, it's not as though there are no issues, there just aren't big enough issues that they need to be addressed.
The only reason I'm even asking is because before these gyms existed, that's the top 5 thing we were hit up about.
Amen, brother, yep.
It was a mess.
Yep, been there, done that,
Yeah,
yep.
I know you.
Yeah. But I guess when that's one of your biggest problems.
That's not bad.
That's not
You
bad.
got it.
If you gotta pick a top 5,
You got it.
and that's one of them, then things are probably okay.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. Anything else?
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
We have one early graduation.
Yes. Last month, I brought to you a student who wanted to graduate early so he could join the, I think it was Air Force. And so I'm here to ask.
I move to approve Dylan James Russell's request for early graduation.
I'll second it. I really like the dad's letter.
Seconded by Christie, moved by Sherry. Any discussion, comments on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Yes, we have an early retirement benefit request. That's right, I mean, Ms. Karen tonight. So you can see the 3 that are listed in your public content: Dennis Nadal, David Blackman, and Terry Morrow. So I ask for your approval for those 3 receiving retirement benefit.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Carl, seconded by James. Comments, discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, approved. All right, last item on the agenda is executive session, which time do you connect up to the poll? 5 minutes, okay. So, 7:24, proper time, I move to go into executive session to discuss individual employees' performance pursuant to non-elected personnel, exception under coma, and the open meeting will resume in the boardroom at 7:30. Second.
how everybody did.
Meeting is hereby adjourned. Thank you very much.